I remember the silence, not the kind you get when the power cuts out in the middle of the night, not even the hollow hush of a battlefield after the last shell has fallen. No, this silence was deeper, heavier, more wrong. It was the silence of a world without barking. It started in the early morning hours. All across Earth, dogs, every breed, every age, every loyal companion, vanished. One moment they were there, sleeping on couches, patrolling backyards, curled up by children's bedsides. The next, gone. No signs of struggle, no broken doors, just empty collars, scratches at the door that never came, bowls of untouched food, and the silence. It hit me hardest around 4 a.m. I was stationed in the Arctic Research Relay, little more than a glorified igloo with data cables, monitoring the magnetosphere for anomalies. Not exactly the front lines of cosmic mystery, but Earth needed all eyes open ever since contact with the galactic Concord was established. I was brushing my teeth when I noticed it. The absence. My dog, Fun, a Siberian husky, thick fur and a heart twice the size, was always awake by then, pawing at the door, whining for a run, tongue out, tail wagging like a metronome set to joy. But that morning, nothing. I stepped out into the snow, called his name, whistled, even used the high-pitched voice he liked to mock me for with those blue, intelligent eyes. Silence, not just from Fun, from everything. No sled dogs howling from the base, no barking from neighboring camps, just the wind in my heartbeat and the sick weight growing in my gut. I wasn't the only one. Within the hour, emergency channels lit up like solar flares. From New York to Nairobi, Tokyo to Timbuktu, every dog, gone, all at once. Every door left closed, every tracker offline. Within 24 hours, grief became rage. Dogs weren't pets. They were family, partners, guardians, emotional lifelines. They herded sheep and sniffed for bombs, found survivors under rubble, detected cancer before doctors could. They'd evolved beside us for tens of thousands of years, and someone had stolen them. Then came the broadcast. It wasn't a signal from space. It was inside our systems. Hijacked satellites, cracked servers. Even analog radio sputtered to life with the same message, translated into every known human language. We have taken your second species. They are not yours. They were meant for more. Do not seek them. You will not find them. You are not worthy. The message ended with a symbol, a broken leash looped around a star. The reaction was global. Some cried, some prayed, some burned everything in sight. But most of us, we got angry. The dogs hadn't been abducted by some unknown species. This was surgical, coordinated, intentional. They knew what they were doing, and they had no idea what they'd just started. The UN convened the Emergency Stellar Defense Coalition the same day. Every military branch across Earth lit up like a war horn from ancient myth. Not for profit, not for politics, for the dogs. We called it Operation Wild Howl. Special forces from every continent began collaborating with Orbital Command. AI companions took over routing logistics, while satellites hunted the rogue signal's origin. For the first time in history, Earth moved as one, because we weren't coming for war. We were coming for our family. And I volunteered the moment I got the chance. I wasn't a soldier. I was a physicist, a systems engineer. But I trained with him every day. We'd survived blizzards, glacier collapses, even a polar bear once. He trusted me to bring him home. And I would, even if it meant burning a hole through the stars. They wanted to test humanity, to see if we'd crawl back into our little blue shell and mourn quietly. They didn't understand what we were. We are the species that conquered fire, split atoms, walked on the moon for no reason other than we could. We are the species that earned the loyalty of wolves and turned them into brothers. You don't take our dogs. Not without consequences. You don't expect to see your dog's ID tag blinking in orbit. Not when he's been missing for 5 days. Not when an entire planet has been spiraling into a controlled frenzy. And especially not when the signal is coming from over 400 kilometers above Earth, moving at Mach 25. But there it was, Fun's collar. Broadcast signature confirmed. DNA trace embedded in the fabric. My encryption pattern from the Arctic outpost, burned into the weave of the smart alloy. I was sitting in the mission deck of Valhalla, one of Earth's first deep-range hunter-class vessels. A warship in design, a rescue ship in purpose. I'd been drafted into the command crew not for combat, but for tracking. My background with magneto signatures and anomalous signal triangulation had become unexpectedly critical. I stared at the holographic display. A pulsing, orbiting Earth. Then gone. "It warped out," said Commander Reyes, a scarred veteran with eyes like forged steel. Micro-wormhole tether. Someone dropped it here to make a point. I didn't respond right away. My chest was still full of static. Wife's collar. I asked, my voice lower than I meant. Reyes turned to me. "Because they knew it would reach you." That stopped me cold. "You think I'm being targeted?" "I think your bond was deep enough that whoever took our dogs is playing psychological warfare. And I think they want you to follow." He tapped the hollow display, shifting our view to deep space. Past Mars, past the heliopause, toward a dark speck on the edge of galactic mapping, Velthura, the rogue planet, the alleged sanctuary. Until now, it was a myth shared only in whispers through Concord archives, a ghost world. But now it had a name and a trail. "Prep to jump," Reyes said. "We're going after them." The crew was quiet, focused, not from fear, from purpose. I walked the decks of the Valhalla that night, couldn't sleep. Past engine technicians whispering prayers in 10 languages. Gunners polishing exoshells not for intimidation, but precision. Biologists readying containment pods with the hope, the belief, that our companions would be coming back alive. Not one person questioned the mission. That's the thing about dogs. They made us better than we were. Calmer, kinder, braver. Losing them had carved something out of us. We weren't going to let that void stay empty. Before jump, I visited the collar. It was kept in a glass containment unit, softly humming with Fun's data signature. I pressed my palm to the surface. Warm. A memory hit me. Fun curled up beside me during a solar storm, tail over his nose, the whole outpost rattling with magnetic spikes, and he just snored. I remember whispering, "You don't even care, huh?" And he didn't, not as long as I was there. So now I had to be there for him. "Sir," came the call over comms. "Jump corridor stabilized. Target locked. We're ready. Bring us in," Reyes ordered. And with that, Earth's wrath entered the void. The jump was rougher than usual. That should have been our first warning. Velthura wasn't just a rogue planet. It was shielded. A web of gravitational anomalies wrapped it like barbed wire around a secret. We emerged near its outer orbit, and the view took our breath away. It was massive, blacker than the space around it. A world carved from obsidian and shadow, with rings made not of ice, but ruins. Ancient, shattered structures drifting endlessly, rotating like a protective belt. And all around it, ships, thousands of them. Alien designs, but none moved. No lights, no heat signatures. It was a graveyard. And yet, every single ship was marked with the same symbol, a leash broken, wrapped around a star. The sanctuary of the starbound. "This doesn't look like a sanctuary," someone whispered. "Looks like a prison." "No," Reyes said. "Looks like a warning." We drifted toward the upper atmosphere, scanning frequencies. And that's when the voices began. Not over the comms, not through systems. Inside our heads. "Turn away, children of Earth. You were warned. This is not your place. The loyalty you seek is not yours to command. They are not pets. They are not tools. They are purer than you. Leave, or be judged." Half the bridge collapsed from the psychic pressure. Noses bleeding. Heart rate spiking. And still I stood. Not because I was strong, but because I'd heard worse. I'd heard the silence when Fun vanished. I stepped forward and shouted into the ship's open transmission array. "You don't get to decide that. We didn't ask for loyalty, they gave it freely. They stood with us when no one else did. You stole them, and you think that makes you righteous." Silence. Their response. A single bark. crackling through the speakers. Low, mournful, fun, and suddenly hundreds more joined it. Howls, whines, growls, barking in unison. An entire planet of stolen companions crying out across dimensions. Every soldier on the bridge froze. And Reyes just whispered what we were all thinking. They're alive. I've never seen grown warriors hesitate like that. Battle-hardened men and women who'd stared down orbital bombardments, survived black hole recon, fought in the methane swamps of Ganymede. All of them frozen. Because she was human. And she shouldn't have been there. The figure at the center of the landing corridor looked like someone's grandmother, maybe mid-60s. Pale hair and a braid down her back, dressed in flowing robes that shimmered like oil under moonlight. But it was the dogs beside her that unsettled everyone. 3 of them, a mastiff the size of a bear, a sleek greyhound whose muscles twitched like liquid steel, and a German shepherd, classic build, ears alert, but with irises glowing like stars. No collars. No leashes. They didn't growl, didn't bark. They just watched, judging. Reyes and I stood at the airlock, armed but not aiming. We weren't idiots. This wasn't a firefight. This was a test. The woman raised a hand, palm outward in greeting. I am Keeper Lyra, she said, voice amplified not by speakers but by something in our bones. You have come for the taken. The dogs, Reyes said flatly. You stole them. She tilted her head, the way dogs do when you say a word they almost remember. No, we freed them. I stepped forward before Reyes could snap back. You freed them from beds, homes, children, soldiers who depended on them to survive? I asked, my voice shaking with the effort to stay steady. From those who loved them? Lyra regarded me calmly. From those who caged their purpose. I clenched my fists. I didn't cage fun. He saved me more times than I can count. She nodded slowly, which is why he called you. I froze. What? You didn't find his collar, she said. He sent it. Through the void. Through everything. He broke the protocol. You called him in silence, and he answered. You are the first to be summoned. Reyes raised a brow. Summoned? For what? Lyra turned and gestured toward the dark horizon of Velthura. What we thought was a mountain range moved. Massive shapes. Hundreds of them. Canine silhouettes the size of buildings. Hulking and ancient. Tails like comets. Coats that shimmered like stardust. Each one emerging from shadow. They weren't dogs. They were progenitors. The origin species. The Earth dogs were seeded generations ago, Lyra explained. Gifts scattered to promising civilizations. Observers. Guides. You called them pets. Companions. But they were more. Far more. They chose us. I whispered. She nodded. But not all chose wisely. Behind us, Valhalla's sensor screamed. Ship-wide alerts. Proximity spikes. Reyes shouted orders, and orbital screens lit up. Fleet signatures. Not ours. Not Concord. An alien battle group. 20 warships, cresting out of deep subspace. Lyra didn't even turn. They come for what you seek. You are not alone in desiring the loyalty of the pure. On the bridge, Reyes growled. Who the hell are they? The Kalari, Lyra said softly. Takers. Harvesters. They once tamed the ancestor for war until they were judged. And now they return, thinking you are weak. She looked me in the eye. Prove them wrong. That was when the German shepherd stepped forward. Fun. I knew him instantly. The scar on his muzzle from our glacier fall, the tilt of his ear, and the look in his eyes, that wild, human intelligence. I dropped to one knee. My voice broke. Fun. He walked up, leaned into me, and placed his head on my chest, just like he did that night during the storm. He hadn't forgotten. I looked up at Lyra. What now? She smiled. Now, she said, you fight with them. As equals. We raced back to the Valhalla. Orders barked. Shields raised. Engines hot. Outside, the Kalari ships took formation. Black and gold hulls. Bristling weapons. No hails. No warning. They came to take. But we had something they didn't. The dogs. They howled before the first shot fired. Not in pain, not in fear, but in rage. From the planet's surface, the massive progenitors lifted their heads and joined the cry. The sound echoed across the stars. Ancient, terrifying, beautiful. Then they launched. Finn was the first into the drop pod. He didn't wait, just turned once, looked at me, and barked like he always did before a run. And I followed. We hit orbit like a storm with fangs. Our drop pods tore through Velthura's atmosphere, piercing gravity wells and slipping past quantum disruptions that would have scrambled lesser tech. But this wasn't just tech anymore. This was instinct, purpose, pack. Finn stood beside me in the command pod, still glowing. His first shimmer was something not quite light, like auroras trapped under his skin. His eyes, once icy blue, were now radiant with fierce, golden fire. He wasn't just a dog anymore. He was becoming what they'd once been. The Kalari fleet loomed ahead, 20 ships in a classic net pattern, designed to trap and crush. Their vessels weren't graceful. They were brutal, armor-plated, spiked, powered by enslaved stars and grown in forge wombs. They had taken creatures like from before, used their ancestors as war beasts, broken them, weaponized them. But not today. We weren't running. Today Earth had teeth. Deploy the warpack. Reyes roared from the Valhalla's bridge. All hands, all units, follow the bond. Across our channels, something incredible happened. Barks, growls, whines. Each voice triggered a connection inside the dropships. Not just communication, synchronization. Every soldier on board had trained with a canine unit. Every one of us had a bond. We thought we understood it. Loyalty, obedience, love. We didn't understand a damn thing, because now they were leading us. Fun growled once, low and sharp, and the dropship changed trajectory, matching his intent before the pilot even blinked. The pack AI wasn't driving anymore. He turned toward me, eyes burning. And for the first time, I heard him, not through sound, through thought. We hunt. The pod bay doors opened and chaos erupted. The battlefield was three-dimensional madness. Kolari ships unleashed volleys of plasma spikes and photon slivers. Their boarding claws lashed out like insect legs. But before they could lock onto anything, we were already inside. Finn leapt from the drop pod before it landed, an arc of glowing fur and kinetic fury. He slammed into a Kalari drone, jaws like gravity wells, and ripped it apart. I followed on foot, plasma rifle humming, and I wasn't alone. Dozens of soldiers. Hundreds. All moving not in formation, but in flow. Each guided not by orders, but by instinct. By the dogs. Every soldier had a war dog at their side. And every dog was evolving. They moved faster than any breed I remembered. Stronger. Eyes glowing. Some had elemental charges. Lightning trailing their paws. Heat radiating from their jaws. Minds broadcasting across the battlefield. And they coordinated. Where we'd once led, now we followed. And we followed gladly. Reyes' voice came over the main comms. Kolari flanking north. Scramble interceptor units. But it wasn't our interceptors that moved. From the planet's surface. They came. The progenitors. Colossal wolves of star metal and bone, with paws that left shockwaves and howls that shattered hulls. They leapt through orbit like it was air, trailing energy wakes. One landed on a Kalari dreadnought and ripped it in half. No weapons, no tactics, just judgment. I watched, stunned, as a pack of them tore through the fleet like vengeance made flesh. The Kalari tried to retreat. Too late. Finn barked once, and our entire formation turned. The final ship tried to slip into warp. A coward's escape. But one of the progenitors let out a sound I'll never forget. A single, deafening bark that cracked space-time like glass. The warp drive collapsed inward, and the Kalari flagship vanished in a sunburst of light. When it was over, there was no cheer, no victory chant, just silence. The good kind this time. Finn walked over to me, breathing steady, for still glowing. He leaned into my hand like he always used to. No words now, just that old weight of trust. Lyra appeared again, this time in person aboard the Valhalla, standing at the bow. "They have chosen," she said softly. "You understand now, don't you?" I nodded. "They were never ours." "Not really." "No, but they chose to stand beside you. That is a rare thing in the galaxy." Reyes stepped forward. "Are they to stay like this?" Glowing, floating, tearing ships apart. Lyra smiled faintly. "They're only now remembering what they are. And us. You're the first species to earn their wrath." I blinked. She corrected herself with a slight smile. "I meant their loyalty." We barely had time to catch our breath. The Kalari were ashes drifting through orbit, but Finn's growl hadn't faded. It deepened. Thick was something I hadn't heard from him since the day we lost Earth's dogs. Fear. The war room aboard Valhalla buzzed with activity. The tactical holotable flickered with fresh data, gravitational spikes, dimensional rifts opening along the edge of the Velthura system. Something massive was inbound. Reyes slammed a fist against the console. "We just fought a fleet of monsters. What the hell is bigger than that?" Lyra stood silently at the edge of the room. She didn't flinch, didn't even blink. "They are called the Unbound, Commander." "The what?" She finally turned toward us, voice quiet as snowfall, but heavier than a black hole. "They are what happens when the bond is broken, not by loss, but by betrayal." The Kalari were the first to break the sacred pact with the Canis lineage. They used our progenitors as weapons, tortured them, engineered control systems into their minds. I looked at Fun. He was standing like stone, ears forward, hackles bristled. Lyra continued. "When the progenitors rebelled, some were too far gone, too corrupted. The leash was not just removed. It was shattered. The Unbound. Yes, they are not pack. They are not pure. They do not choose loyalty or trust. They serve only instinct, rage, and entropy." Reyes narrowed his eyes. "And what do they want now?" Lyra met his gaze. "To erase us all. You, me, and especially the ones who dare to earn what they lost." That's when the first ripple hit. The ship groaned as space-time bent. Not from a weapon, from presence. The stars outside shifted. Something was coming through. We launched long-range drones to triangulate the incursion point. What came back didn't make sense. A tear in the fabric of space. No engine signature. No radiation. Just a hole where light died. And then they emerged. Not ships. Not creatures. Hybrids. Some part organic. Some part void. Wolf-shaped titans with glowing spines. Jet black fur swirling with galaxies and eyes like eclipses. They didn't need propulsion. They willed themselves forward. And they brought the silence of death with them. Every progenitor on Velthura lifted its head. And for the first time, they hesitated. Even Finn whimpered, just once. Not in fear of battle, but recognition. A memory buried deep in genetic code. "Engage defense grid." Reyes shouted. Full spectrum. Shields to maximum. The Unbound didn't fire weapons. They howled. A sound that bypassed the ears and rattled the soul. My knees buckled. Dozens of crew collapsed around me. Tech systems blinked out. Dogs across the ship let out panic barks. Until Finn barked back, one sharp note like a war drum. He wasn't afraid anymore. He was angry. He stood on his hind legs, fully upright, taller than me now, and leapt into the airlock corridor. Behind him, a dozen other Earthborn dogs followed suit. But they weren't just dogs anymore. Their eyes glowed like Nova hearts. Their fur flickered with heat and light. Their footsteps shook the hull. And they spoke, not in words, in command, through neural links, psychic pathways. Pack mind. Follow. Strike. Protect. Hold the bond. Hunt the fallen. Purge the broken. And I followed. We dropped onto Velthura's upper atmosphere, riding harnesses mounted to evolved dogs who now flew like myth. The Unbound had landed, not to destroy, but to convert. They spread across the ruins like rot, blackening the ground, infecting anything with hesitation. One of them spotted us mid-flight. It looked like a wolf, but wrong. Hollowed, teeth too long, limbs bent backward. It screeched a sound that shattered my visor display, and then lunged. Fun met it midair. He didn't bark. He roared. The sound cracked the thing's ribcage in half. We landed in the chaos, surrounded by fire and growls, and the sky split open by energy. I fought side by side with soldiers I'd never met, each with their bonded dog. One woman's Belgian Malinois hurled itself into a corrupted pack leader, detonating in light and reforming seconds later from ash and bone. What the hell are they becoming? I shouted to Lyra, who fought beside me, wielding a staff of living light. She blocked an Unbound strike and snarled, "They are remembering what they once were, guardians of balance, keepers of instinct." The first pack. I felt something behind me. Turned. An Unbound monster, 3 stories tall, gaping maw wide, about to crush us all. And then Finn teleported. One blink, and he was there, his jaws around its throat, glowing brighter than the sun. He tore through its neck, not with violence, but judgment. The creature screamed and unraveled into mist. Finn turned to me and spoke. "More remain. The final hunt begins." The transmission came through every channel, military, civilian, orbital, even emergency ham frequencies. One moment the skies were filled with combat chatter and screams. The next, silence, then a pulse. And from every collar ever issued on Earth, every single dog, registered or not, a signal, coordinated, identical, synchronized. 42 degrees north, 89 degrees west, Earth. Original site, Black Root, Wisconsin. It made no sense. That location? Farmland. A handful of towns, a forest preserve known for maple trees, and nothing else. But the collars knew, the dogs knew, and whatever had been left there was waking up. We burned a return corridor through the Velthora system, slipping through a gravity fold created by the progenitors. Finn stood at the front of the bridge, as if guiding the ship himself. He barely slept, barely moved. He just watched the stars, ears twitching at things we couldn't hear. Reyes tapped the navigation console. ETA to Earth, 5 hours. Lyra stood nearby. "You must understand, what stirs on your planet is not of my order." "What do you mean?" I asked. She turned her sharp, ancient gaze toward me. "I mean, this wasn't seeded by the progenitors. It was buried by your kind." I blinked. "That sight, Black Root? Long before you knew what you were. Before you even called yourselves human. Something was left behind. The first pact. Not by us, but by the ones who first walked beside the wild." Reyes leaned forward. "Prehistoric humans?" "No," she said quietly. "Pre-human." We touched down at Black Root hours later. Earth Command had already deployed an entire division to secure the area. Drones circled overhead. Anti-orbital cannons bristled across nearby ridge lines. But nothing came from above. The threat wasn't descending. It was rising. I walked into the woods with Fun at my side, and the rest of the bonded units behind us. A strange hum filled the trees, not technological, not natural. The deeper we went, the older the forest felt. And then we found it, an ancient stone monolith, jagged and massive, buried beneath layers of root and moss. Carvings covered its surface, not human figures, but wolves. Thousands, interlocked, intertwined, and at the center, 2 handprints. One human, one paw, together, as if pressing against time itself. Finn stepped forward. He placed his paw on the stone. I followed, placing my hand beside his. The forest lit up. It wasn't just light, it was memory. I saw flashes. Paleolithic hunters sitting by firelight, wolves crouched nearby not as pets, but equals, guardians. The first pact wasn't written. It was lived, a trust deeper than language, a shared will to survive. We run together. We fight together. We rise together. And then I saw them, the old ones, not human, not quite alien. Tall, fur-lined, shaped like upright wolves with eyes of starlight. They had given the pact freely, planting it in early humanity like a seed. A test, and Earth had passed. But now the test was coming to its final stage, because something else had followed the signal. A shadow bloomed in the sky above Wisconsin. We looked up, and for the first time in recorded history, a Leashbreaker entered orbit. The Leashbreakers were myth, spoken of in only the oldest progenitor whispers. Creatures that had once been bonded, then betrayed, then twisted. They didn't serve the Kalari. They used them, directed them like hounds wearing the skins of masters. And now one hovered above our skies, shaped like a skeletal dog, 30 kilometers long. A war beast made of shattered memories, broken bonds, and psychic rage. Its howl shattered windows from Milwaukee to Chicago. Earth didn't panic. Earth prepared. From the Blackroot monolith, a pulse surged into the air, straight into orbit. And that's when every unbonded dog on Earth, millions of them, looked skyward and ran. Not away, toward, across highways, through cities, through walls and fences and fire. All of them, answering the call. The first pack, united. Finn turned to me. His voice echoed to my skull like thunder wrapped in fur. It comes for all, but Earth will stand. I reached for my weapon. No, Earth will bite back. I watched Finn rise. Not jump, not fly, ascend. Step by impossible step into the sky, as if gravity had decided it no longer applied to him. Around him, millions of dogs, every breed from every corner of Earth, converged on Blackroot. No barking, no panic, just calm, purpose, as if they all knew. The first pack was gathering. Above, the Leashbreaker loomed like a nightmare stitched together from bones and broken trust. Its mouth was wide enough to eclipse clouds, and from its spilled beasts, horrors with paws of flame and eyes like broken stars. They fell like meteors, tearing through the atmosphere. Our orbital defenses lit up, missiles slicing the sky, interceptors howling past with sonic booms. But the beasts didn't flinch. Some swatted projectiles from the air like flies. Others phased through them, claws trailing shadows that poisoned the very light they passed through. But Earth had something they didn't expect. A pack. We didn't wait for orders. There were none left to give. The soldiers of Earth rallied. Every bonded unit from every country, dogs and humans, shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart. We stood in city streets, mountain ranges, forest paths, waiting. And then the howl came. It echoed across the entire planet. A single note, ageless, piercing, carried not through sound, but through memory. Every living thing on Earth felt it, a sound that resonated in bones and blood. And the dogs answered. One by one, they began to glow, fur turning to firelight, eyes to embers, tails leaving comet trails. They rose, some leaping into the sky, others simply vanishing upward like they belonged to the heavens. Finn was no longer alone. He was leading the ascension charge. The first wave of void beasts hit Earth's upper atmosphere, only to be torn apart mid-descent. Dogs intercepted them midair, jaws locking onto throats, claws slicing through twisted armor. But this wasn't mindless violence. They weren't killing. They were purging, restoring the broken. Every time a corrupted creature was slain, something flickered, a faint spark of light, like a soul freed from shadow. The pack didn't fight with anger. They fought with judgment, and we followed. In Chicago, I fought beside a Malinois named Dagger, shielding civilians in collapsing buildings. In Tokyo, Huskies formed shield lines with bonded fire units, redirecting plasma through mirrored surfaces. In Sahara, old warhounds once retired to peace rejoined the front lines with new fire in their eyes. We weren't winning because of tech or numbers. We were winning because of bond. Because no matter how much darkness came through that sky, Earth remembered what it was to fight with love, with loyalty, with family. And then the Leashbreaker descended. It touched down just outside of Madison. Trees vaporized. Ground cracked open. It let out a howl that shattered satellites. The air turned heavy, like the planet itself was bracing for impact. Finn was waiting. He touched down opposite the beast. No armor, no weapons. Just him, tail raised, ears forward. The Leashbreaker lunged, and Finn vanished, only to reappear inside its ribcage, tearing through it from the inside out. His body flickered like starlight, jaws burning with memory. But it wasn't enough. The Leashbreaker shrieked and hurled him into the earth, burying him in a crater. I screamed his name. Silence. Then the ground shook, not from the Leashbreaker, from the pack. Every dog on earth howled as one, from the hills of Ireland to the coast of Brazil, from the tundras of Russia to the alleys of New York. Billions of voices joined into one, unified, focused, and Finn rose, wounded, bleeding light, but smiling. He stepped forward, glowing, radiant, as tall as a tank now, more energy than flesh. He turned to me. Now! I ran forward, activated my gauntlet, and launched a signal, channeling everything Earth had into one final, focused strike. And Finn leapt, through plasma, through shadow, through memory, straight into the heart of the Leashbreaker. And he didn't howl this time. He barked, sharp, pure, final. The Leashbreaker imploded, its twisted frame unraveling into stardust and light. And with it, every other corrupted creature turned to dust. The sky cleared. The stars returned. Earth exhaled. In the silence that followed, we found him, Finn, lying in the crater, his glow fading. I dropped to my knees, tears already falling. You did it, I whispered. He lifted his head and placed it in my lap. His voice echoed one last time in my mind. We are pack. Always. Then his eyes closed, and light rose from his body into the sky. Epilogue, the bond eternal. Weeks passed. The monolith at Blackroot still glowed faintly. Earth rebuilt, together, for the first time, not divided by nation or creed, but united by a memory of dogs, of loyalty, of love. And sometimes in the quiet of night, children swear they hear barking in the stars. Some call it wind, but we know better, because when the darkness comes again, Earth will not face it alone. We will answer, and we will bring everything.